lovers, Victoria here and you're watching My Books Me. Today I'm bringing you my next wrap up and I think this is books 40 to 44. I was actually planning on doing a really awesome video for today, but I did not get prepared to film that and I ran out of time. So I'm just going to do a wrap up this week. Hopefully next week, maybe, will be that really cool video. I know you guys will really like it when we see it. So let's go. So the first book is a graphic novel and that is The Wicked and the Divine Volume 2 Fandemonium by Kieran Gillian, Jamie McLeave, Matthew Wilson and Clayton Cowles. This was really good. I really enjoyed the first volume and I was really excited to see what happened in this second one because we were left on a cliffhanger after the first one. So for those who don't know, this graphic novel series follows this series of 12 gods where every 90 years they are reincarnated into the bodies of young people and they become like pop stars and influential people to be influential, and after 2 years they die and then then there's another 90 years and it all happens again. So it's in the middle of this 2-year period. I think it's only just the very beginning, and at the end of the first volume one of the gods is killed and our main character Laura is there to witness it. And so this follows on from that and everyone trying to figure out who killed this god, and Laura suddenly has this newfound fame because not only was she getting close to all the gods in general, but she was obviously there when this other god was killed and everyone knows it, so she's kind of like famous now. She doesn't really know what to do with it and she kind of thinks that now she may have got the powers from her friend, and so it's all very complicated. Everything's happening, the gods are all like sort of doing their own thing. The end of this was an even bigger cliffhanger than the first one and I have no idea where this story is going to go now because like I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it and I can't wait to get to the second volume. I highly recommend this series if you haven't read it already. I also love the artwork in here, like especially scenes like this. It's so good. So for the next 4 books I've read, I've actually got reviews up on my blog which go into greater detail about my thoughts on them. I don't want to really go into too much in this video, mainly because I might do individual videos. I don't really know. But anyway, the next, also, they're all books that I listened to audio, also they are all 4 books that I listened to the audiobooks for. Anyway, so the next book is Nevernight by J. Kristoff, the first book in the Nevernight Chronicle. If anyone has been on this channel for over a year now, you may remember that I actually got an arc for this probably this time last year. And I never finished it. I got the finished copy of the book, still never finished it. I got halfway through the book and it was like the middle of September when I got busy with doing uni and other stuff and put it down and never picked it back up until last month when I was like, had this really weird urge to just suddenly pick it up. So anyway, I got the audiobook for this because I needed to go back and reread the first half of the book because I kind of had no idea what was going on. Although to be fair, when I did start reading it, it sort of all came flooding back to me anyway. So I ended up listening to the audiobook, which I highly recommend. It was a fantastic audiobook and this book by itself is amazing. We follow 16-year-old Mia Corvera, who at the age of 10 witnessed her father being executed for treason and her mother and her brother, her baby brother I should say, were imprisoned, and Mia was actually meant to be killed but she managed to escape and she was taken in by this guy called Mercurio, who just happened to have had assassin training, and so he decides to become her shaheed and train her up so that she can attend the Red Church, which is a secret school for assassins that is very reputable among the people who know about it. So we follow Mia traveling to this Red Church and then learning to become an assassin, and she's surrounded by these teachers who have killed many people and all these students who have had to kill to be able to attend the school. So it's sort of not really like the safest place, but she manages to make friends and has a little bit of a romance, and it turns out that even surrounded by all these people who have got blood on their hands, the Red Church is actually quite a safe place. It is the outside that is kind of dangerous and the outside that is trying to get in, because the leader of the Republic actually wants to bring down the Red Church and all its leaders. And this book was so good. I love the writing style in this book and the world that J. Kristoff has created. A lot of people have said that this is a very dense read, and I agree with you, it is, especially in the beginning when you're trying to wrap your head around the narration, the world building, and the fact that we are alternating perspectives in the first bit of the book so we can learn about Mia's past and how she got to where she is today. And also there are a ton of footnotes in here that expand on the world. I definitely agree it is a little bit hard to get into, but once you are in, you don't want to leave, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really loved the footnotes in here. Some, like as I said, some of them are really long. Like there's an example of the footnotes there. Some of them are like half a page long. It's not even funny, but they were all really great. They just expand upon the world, events that have happened, that have taken place in the world, people that are mentioned, and just some of it's just really some funny anecdotes. And I think at this point in the series anyway, a lot of it really has nothing to do with the story, because I remember Jay saying last year when the book was released that you don't actually have to read the footnotes if it's getting a bit hard for you to alternate between the story and the footnotes. But I definitely recommend it. If you are struggling with this book, I definitely recommend the audiobook. Can I just say now though that it is, and it becomes evident the further I get into the rest of these books, it is really weird listening to an audiobook that's narrating sex scenes. That's just a weird thing. I'm okay with reading them, but it's a weird thing when you really start thinking about it, that there is someone out there who has had to read this and narrate it, knowing that, you know, thousands of people are going to be listening to them narrating a sex scene. Kind of a weird thing, but this book was really, really good. The ending took me so much by surprise. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. I cannot wait for God's Grave in September. And as I said, there's a review on my blog which goes into a bit more detail. Go check it out. So now these final 3 books I'm kind of going to talk as like one thing, because I read them all 3 over a series of 11 days, and it's kind of hard for me just to sort of like talk about like one and then talk about the next. And that is the Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy. Well, the first part of the series by Sarah J. Maas. So we have A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and the new book that just came out this month, A Court of Wings and Ruin. So as I said, I read this over 11 days. I had not read these books beforehand. For some reason, I'd actually owned A Court of Thorns and Roses since it came out. I never picked it up. But with all the hype surrounding Wings and Ruin coming out, I had to start. So, briefly, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, cause you know, yeah. And then I gave Wings and Ruin 4.5 out of 5 stars. Overall, I really enjoyed this series. It definitely lives up to all the hype that I've been hearing about it since the very beginning, and especially Akamath. Like, obviously everyone just adores that book. I can so see why. I loved it so much. Again, I was listening to the audiobooks for most of these. Again, it was also very weird to have sex scenes narrated to you. But anyway, the third book is amazing, and it just finishes Feyre's story so beautifully, because the next books in the series are actually going to be following someone else's perspective. I think they're still continuing on the story, but they're from a different character's perspective. Feyre's story has essentially come to an end, and it is a really nice conclusion to her story. There are definitely a couple of characters whose stories are still very much open. I'm hoping that the next books are from Feyre's sister's perspectives, because they still have a lot to go, but the whole thing was really good. Definitely go check out my reviews for these, and I'm actually thinking of doing a video where I do talk about all 3 books and go into a little bit more of spoiler details, because it's really hard to talk about books in a series when you don't want to spoil people who maybe have not read the previous book or whatnot. But in short, these books are well worth the hype. If I do just have to say, if you didn't really enjoy the first book, keep going, because the second book is fabulous. Like, this book is so amazing, to the point where when I get around to rereading these books, because I will, I'm probably going to start from here, or I'm probably going to start with like the last quarter of this from the Under the Mountain stuff, where things sort of really start getting important. It was enjoyable, but when you compare it to the rest of the books in the series, but yeah, seriously, these last 2 books were fantastic. 700 pages for this was not enough. I did not want to say goodbye at the end. I didn't want to leave this world. I definitely shed some tears in here, so be prepared for that. just thinking about it, I'm so glad I got to read I'm so glad I finally got around to reading these books. I'm also so glad I did not have to wait a year for this to read it. I literally waited like 2 days because obviously the end of this one was so good. Oh, I'm just thinking about it. It's just so good. Anyway, highly recommend it. If you want me to do a video either just talking about Aka War because it just came out, or if you want me to do a video where I talk about all 3 books and go into some spoilers, and please let me know in the comments below, because I definitely have a lot to talk about with them. And in my reviews I wrote on my blog, which again, as I said, I'll link to in the description below, I don't really go too much into spoilers. I was very hard not to, but I managed to do it, you know, somewhat spoiler free, so definitely check them out, especially if you're wondering about Aka War. I didn't really do too much, no, I didn't really go into many spoilers, it was just sort of my overall thoughts on them, but definitely read all 3 because they kind of all flow together, my 3 reviews, because a lot of the points I'm talking about sort of flow across all of the books. I don't want to sound repetitive, but anyway, I do have a lot of thoughts. I tried to condense them into non-spoilerness in my written reviews, but if you do want me to talk spoiler stuff, then please let me know, because I'm more than happy to make a video about that, either just Aka War or the whole trilogy. I don't know, just let me know. So they are the most recent, so they are the next 5 books that I've read. I'm currently working through the next batch of 5 books. I seriously cannot believe how many books I've read this year so far. I am 3/4 of the way through my reading goal already. I think it's like 23 books ahead of my goal. Wait, no. I am like 3/4 of the way through my goal, and I think I'm like 23 books ahead of schedule. It is insane. So as I said, links to blog reviews in the description. Go check them out if you want to know more. Let me know if you want me to do an Aka War or an Aka trilogy talk, because I'm more than happy to, and I will see you guys next week with another video. Bye!